All right, we're starting Beitza. For some reason, the Bavli, and this set of Yerushalmi, the Vilna set, both have Yuma Shkolim Yuma, but I guess the set for which they originally determined to do Daf Yom Yerushalmi had Beitza, which is in the middle of the middle of the volume here, as the first one. So, have you ever learned Beitza and Bavli? Oh, okay. Welcome to the club. All right, no, I did learn Beitza, but that's not. We're going to learn mostly about Muktzah. That's what the Masechta is mostly about. Okay, Beitza Shnol to be Yontif. Beitza, which is born on Yontif. Born means, of course, laid, but in Hebrew there's no difference. On Yontif, Beishama Rim Te'achel. Beishama says it may be eaten. Beisil Rim Lo Te'achel. Beisil says it may not be eaten. Mat Hamun Beishama. So the Gemara starts off right away. What's the logic? Beishama. Beishama here is Mekel. It's one of the rare instances in Shas in which Beishama is Mekel. So it says the Gemara, Muchenasi al Gav Ima. It's already considered to be prepared to consume when it's in its mother's intestines, because that's already considered to be full prepared and ready to eat. So therefore, it's not as if it was muktzah when Shal Yontif began. That's why you can eat it on Yontif. Matamun the Beisil. What's the logic of Beisil? Nasa kamuktzah sheyavash. It's like muktzah which dried below yadapo. There's a very interesting category of muktzah. The Yerushalmi, the Bavli, does not hold this category of muktzah. This category of muktzah is a case where you have the classic case of muktzah. The place where the word muktzah comes from is where you have figs or grapes that you set aside to dry, and you put on your roof, and the process of drying. So that's muktzah. In fact, that place where you set them to dry is called the muktzah. That's the name of that place. And that's muktzah that's pushed aside and rejected until such time as it actually dries. Okay, so until it actually dries, so that it's not considered usable. Now, what if it became dry? In fact, the raisins and figs dried before Shabbos Yontif, unbeknownst to you. So the Bavli actually holds that that's mutter, as long as it was objectively prepared from before Shabbos Yontif. You don't have to subjectively be aware of its state of preparedness. But the Yerushalmi holds you have to be aware of the fact that it was prepared before Shabbos Yontif. So therefore, according to Beis Hillel, this is the egg might have been fully formed and ready to go and be laid before Yontif began, but since it was actually laid on Yontif, and you were not cognizant of its state of preparedness before Yontif began, therefore, it's awesome. Okay, that's Beis Hillel's perspective. So again, the Matam of Beis Hillel, Nazis Kamukta Shiyavash Lo Yadabo. It's like Mukta which became dry, but you were not aware of it. As the Gemara, Ilu Mukta Shiyavash Lo Yadabo Shema Ino Asur, is Mukta which became dry and you're not aware of, is that indeed usher? Now there are a couple of different interpretations of this line. The way I interpret it is like the Mashbiach. He says it's in fact usher muktzah which became dry you were not aware of. There are other interpretations of the line, but that'll do for us. So it says more about Tani that I don't understand. What about the following case? It says Ashogad is a Tani Koilos. If you slaughtered on Yontif a hen, umatzah b'sochad, you found within the hen beitzim, eggs, apopi gemuros, even though they are completed. Now there's a word missing here, or a phrase missing. Means it's not really, of course, the fact that they're completed is a reason to assume that they are mutar Yontif, because it means they're prepared, they're already fully formed. What he means to say is, even though you were not aware of it, even though they had formed, and you were not aware of the fact that they had formed, nevertheless they are mutar, harei mutaros. So we see here that this case over here indicates to us that even if you're not aware, it's like muktzah sheyavash, right? You opened up the hen, and lo and behold, there was actually an egg inside the hen, which was fully formed. So you had no idea about this ahead of time. When you opened up the hen, you found that it's there. So then nonetheless, you say it's mutter. So let's say also in our case here in our Gemara, that should be mutter when you find the egg is laid on Yontif, Or you find a case where, for example, getting back to the muktzah, you went up and you found that your raisins actually had been dry already for some time, since the beginning of Shabbos. So it says more no. There is no comparison between the taste of eggs, which are still inside the intestines of the hen, and eggs which have already left the intestines. Meaning the eggs inside the intestines are still considered to be part and parcel of the hen. They don't have a separate identity. Even if they're almost fully formed, the portion down, meaning according to Yerushalmi, even if they already have their white shell intact, nevertheless, they're not considered to be true, complete, bona fide eggs. They're considered to be like part and parcel of the mother, of the hen. So since they're part and parcel of the hen, so therefore the hen, of course, is prepared. Any hen you can shech whenever you want. So the hen is considered to be prepared from before you have to begin. So the eggs within the hen are also permitted because they're considered to be part and parcel of the hen. As opposed to an egg which is fully laid on Yontif, that is considered to be distinct, and that distinctiveness it must have before Yontif, otherwise it's also. That's Beisil's Svarah. Chorana Amar, the other Svarah, the understanding here is, among Rabbi Mana, is Shein Nikmeres Lefroach Ad Shetetzei Lachutz. It's the similar, the other side of the coin. The first side of the coin was that when it's inside it tastes different. The second side of the coin is that it's not yet a fully formed egg because it can't produce a chick until it's outside the mother's intestines. So therefore, when it's outside the mother's intestines, it's truly an egg because then it can produce a chick. When it's inside the mother's intestines, it's not truly an egg, so to speak, because it can't produce yet a chick. So therefore, we say at that point, if you shechted the mother hen on Yontif and found the egg inside, the egg is mutter under those circumstances. Okay? Says the Gemara, Mayim b'basar b'cholav. Mayim b'cholav. There's a peripheral question to our issue. What's the status of the eggs you find inside the hen vis-a-vis basar b'cholav? Of course, eggs are considered to be parv. What about if you found the eggs inside the mother? Are they still parv? Are they considered to be fleshik because you found them when you open up the mother? So it says the Gemara, Ima Yumurus Begidin, if they were still connected to the sinews where they grow. Now I don't know exactly how eggs grow. They grow in a cluster on something inside the hen. But if they're still attached to that sinew, whatever that gid is, where they form a cluster, so then they're also to eat with milk because they're considered to be fleshik eggs, right? And if they're no longer connected, they're severed from that cluster where they form. So then mutaras, and they're permitted to be eaten with milk because they're considered to be the ready eggs, which are of course parva. Now it's interesting. The Yerushalmi is more machmir than the Bavli. The Bavli holds that even if they're still connected to the cluster, if they are fully formed, they're considered ready to be parva. But the Yerushalmi says as long as they're originally still connected to the cluster where they form, even if they're fully formed, they're considered to be fleshik. Okay? Says Yerushalmi further, Hakomodim. Everybody concedes the Beitza sheyotza ruba me'erev Yontif. If let's say the egg was laid in its majority before Yontif began, on Friday, either a few minutes before Yontif or earlier, Friday, on Erev Yontif, either a few minutes before Yontif began, at least a few minutes before Yontif began. It's regular since it was laid from before Yontif, and it's mutter to consume on Yontif proper. Mapli, where's their machlokas? B'sheyotza miyuta. When a minority of the egg came out before Yontif began, and then it went back in, and then it was laid the next day. Beishamai Omrim, Beishamai says Te'achel, Beishamai says you can eat it, because it already started to be prepared before Yontif. Okay, this is not to do with Muktzah Shiavash. It's a new way of understanding our Mishnah. Machlokas is by an egg which already started leaving, but only left a minority of the egg before Yontif, and then the full egg left on Yontif. Beishamai says it's mutter, you can eat it. Beishamai lo Te'achel, Beishamai says you cannot eat it because it's not. It's not considered late until the majority came out, and the majority only came out in Yontif itself. Just like you're not allowed to eat it, so too you're not allowed to carry it. Why? Because muktzah is not just also to consume, it's also also to carry. Now, this arba achas b'meah, if this egg, which you're not sure if it's, this is even a very big chumrah, if you're not sure whether it was prepared from before Yom Tov or not, whether the majority of it was laid before Yom Tov or not, if it gets mixed in, achas b'meah, 1 in 100, achas b'meah, even 1 in 1,000, kulan asuros. They're all asur. Why? Because, don't eat it, it's called davar sheish lo matirin, right? Don't eat it on Yom Tov. Wait till after Yom Tov. So anything which is davar sheish lo matirin, which will become mutter, if we wait a little while, we don't say bittul. So here too, the egg, we don't say bittul, because we say, be patient, wait, you'll get to eat it after Yom Tov is over. Now, that's good. How's it going like? That might be go according to the opinion that holds it's suffix, whether it's prepared properly before Shabbos Yom Tov it's also. What about the opinion which holds that it's something which is suffix that perhaps was mucham before Shabbos Yom Tov, that it's mutter? So what do you say in that case? Modu achadu asur. Here it's different. Here it's asur. Why? Because in this case, we say that I made a mistake. In this case, we got mixed up. It's talking about where it was definitely laid on Yom Tov, not a suffix case. If it was a suffix case, the talk could be mutter. We're talking about a case where it's a vadai case. It's a case where it's definitely laid on Yom Tov. It's just we want to be matter because it got mixed up in so many other ones. So let's be matter. So even if the old suffix called muchan is asur, so then I understand why even though it got mixed up yasur, what choice do you have? It's suffix is asur. But even though suffix muchan is generally mutter, why here if it gets mixed into others, even into 1,000, is remain asur? So it says, I'll tell you why. It's a nashmi, where you have some fruit which fell off a tree, and you don't know if it came from yesterday, meaning from before Yom Tov began, in which case it's mutter, or after Yom Tov began, in which case it's asur, right? So the nashmi, in that case where you have fruit which fell off the tree, saving me'ayom nashu, saving me'etzol nashu. You don't know if they fell off the tree yesterday. You don't know if they fell off the tree today. So in a suffix, you can eat because you're not sure if it's muchan or not. But here, yesh kan achas lesor. There's definitely one which is asur. In other words, it's talking about a case where the egg which got mixed into others is definitely an egg which was laid on the Yom Tov. So since it's definitely one asur, so therefore it asurs all the other ones. The muchachas al kulam. That means it indicates all of them, but it means that all of them are also as a result of this one. Achirim omrim, others say, b'shem Rabbi Lezer. Now this is a new statement. Others is always Rabbi Meir. Generally speaking, at least Rabbi Meir, we don't call by name because he because of some run in the air with Rabbi Gamliel once. But Achirim only sometimes calls called by name, but the reason why Sunday is called Achirim is because he had would run with Rabbi Gamliel, the Nasi. So in any event, Achirim omrim, others say, Rabbi Meir says, Mishem Rabbi Lezer, name Rabbi Lezer, Te'achel hi ve'imah. If you're eating the mother hen, you can also eat the egg. Okay, even Beisil holds you're not allowed to eat the egg, unless it was laid before Yom Tov, holds that if you're eating the mother hen, you could also eat the egg together with it. So it says, why is it true that you can eat it with its mother? I might understand it if its mother was designated to be shechted. Then the egg can be mutter, because I can say, since the mother was ready food from before Yom Tov began, and this egg was within food, right, because it was within the mother, the fact that it's laid on Yom Tov doesn't deprive it of its status as having been food as part of the mother. So this is food as part of the mother. If you're eating the mother, you can eat the egg as well. Okay? It's like a migo. Immediately you're eating the mother. Since you're eating the mother, you can also eat the egg. However, that's only if its mother was perishchita temuteres. But if not, let's say the mother was a hen which is supposed to raise eggs. who's an egg-laying hen. So then, of course, the mother was never designated to eat. The mother was never designated to eat. So then you cannot say that it should be mutter because the mother was mutter, because the mother itself was not designated for purposes of eating. So it says so that's the case. Not all hens are destined to be shechted. So how can you make a general principle that whenever if you shecht the hen on Yontif, you can eat the egg as well? It depends what the mother hen was designated for. Was it designated to raise eggs, in which case it should be also, or was it designated for the purpose of being slaughtered, in which case it should be mutter to eat together with the egg? So it says more. Rabbi Ba says, Teyachel bechina shel ima. You're right. When it means to say is you can eat the egg when its mother was muchana, was designated for the purpose of shechita, was prepared to be slaughtered, then the eggs are mutter because they piggyback on the mother. Not in a case where the mother was designated to raise chits. In that case, it doesn't apply. Now, egel shenolad b'yontif. What if you have a calf which is born on Yontif? Mutter. It's permitted to slaughter on Yontif itself, which is very interesting halacha, because the Chori should say about the calf also. That's noilad, right? It wasn't prepared from beforehand. So it says more very interesting logic, and it's important to remember when we give all these logics that all these halachas are muktzah d'rabbanan. So therefore, we can use our own logic in decreeing halacha. We don't have to actually go back to the sources, because the sources are at the Rabbanan, so the Rabbanan can play with the Rabbanans, right? So he says like this. No, this is no exception. He says, mutaru. The reason why it's mutar is shu matir atzmu l'shchita is because it's also an migo. Migo, that when there's a new halachic status, which is enjoyed by the calf when it is born. What is that? That now it can be shechted. When it's its mother's womb, it was not able to be shechted. So migo that has a new status that can undergo shchita, so therefore it also loses its status as muktzah. In other words, now that it got the vehicle by which it can become mutter to eat by shchita, that same vehicle to the process of migo, which expands the boundaries of a limited vehicle, allows us also to consider it not muktzah. Okay, migo, that you can shecht it, and that permits a state which was previously also, right? Takes which had been also man shechted, and that's allowed, of course, on Yontif. So also that that indicates to us that also now it's not considered to be muktzah, because the muktzah is something which you could not shecht. Till now you couldn't shecht it. Now you can shecht it, so therefore it's not muktzah anymore. It's very interesting migo. Rabbi Zira didn't like it. Rabbi Zira, boy, if that's the case, mi'ata meet boris, an animal which is growing up literally in the desert, but not domesticated. So we say that it's not mutter to shecht on Yontif, because it has to be corralled or lassoed or penned in, caught by you from before Yontif begins. So tei muteris, let's say it's mutter. She materis atzo v'shchita, because now you couldn't shecht it as long as it was out in the wild. You can only shecht it now that it's brought to your house, right? So therefore, let's say that since now it's mutter b'shchita, so therefore it should also be mutter in terms of muktzah. We know that is not the case. We know that an animal which is out and grazes out in the desert has to be designated by you in order for you to use it. It's considered to be muktzah. Why? Let's say that since it's matir itself now by shchita, since you caught it, so therefore it's matir itself also for the purposes of muktzah. So, furthermore, same idea, tziviyah, a deer, say muteris, let it be permitted to slaughter on Yontif, even though you never caught it from before Yontif. Because now it's mutter to shecht, because now it's in your possession. So since it's mutter to shecht, let's say it's also mutter at this point because of muktzah. We know that's not the case. We know also a deer has to be caught from before Shabbos or before Yom Tov begins. So it says, well, you know what? Chazar Rabbi Zira reneged on his previous reason. He was forced to accept that the migo reason is not a valid reason, because that could apply to any animal which all of a sudden became available to you to shecht on Yom Tov, even though it wasn't available beforehand. Rather, he said a different story. The reason why you're allowed to slaughter the reason why the egel is not muktzeh when it's born on Yom Tov is because yesterday it's fully prepared. In other words, a calf, it doesn't get formed only finally on the day it gets born. It's like a child. It's already prepared to be born the day before it's born. Okay, it was just so therefore this calf, even though you didn't see it, it was already prepared from before Yom Tov began, right? However, Bramhacha, but by an egg, Bo Bayom Nigmara, Bo Bayom Noda. Anytime it is complete, and immediately on that day comes out. So if the egg which comes out on Shabbos, it wasn't prepared from Friday, it only became prepared now on Shabbos. And of course the same thing by the animals before which you mentioned. The non-domesticated animal, of course it wasn't prepared. If you prepared it yesterday, it's mutter. The reason why it's usher is because you didn't prepare it from yesterday. You want to catch it on Shabbos or Yom Tov, that we don't let you do. And the same is true by a tzviya, by a deer. We're prepared for yesterday to be mutter. What we don't let you do is catch it and prepare it on Yom Tov proper. Okay? Says the Gemara, Omar Rabbi Ba. Ba said, this is kind of a tangent, but it's an important tangent. Asyot, this case of Egel Shal B'Yontiv, that Shemut Shech on Yontiv, is Command Omar Behem or Yoledis L'Chodoshim Mekutoim. It's quite the opinion that you can approximate the gestation period of a calf. I don't know how many months it is. Yeah, I didn't expect you to. But I know how many months it is. But it's but if it has to be that you don't have to know precisely when it was conceived, because you had no precise when it's conceived in order to. I'm sorry, it can't be that it has to be complete months. Because if it has to be complete months, then you would have to know when the animal is conceived to know if now is the time when you can slaughter it. Because the halacha is that you can only slaughter an animal on the day it's born if you know that it had a full-term gestation. So full-term gestation literally means from day to day, from whatever it is, 270 days from the beginning till the end. So you have to actually know the day it's conceived, and that's almost an impossibility. The only thing you can know is approximately when it became pregnant. So as we're saying, in order to make a klol chadash of that when it's born, it's considered to be fully formed, and it went to full-term pregnancy, you have to say we don't have to know precise date of conception vis-a-vis date of delivery. That's not necessary. Well, one has to know is approximately, and that's what Gemara is about to say. The animal gives birth at approximate months, literally months which might be cut off somewhat. But quite opinion says an animal only gives birth at specific months, in other words, full months of 30 days each, or after full months. Imagine that. Does he know exactly when she had relations with a male, that she copulated with a male animal, and that they formed the vlad? In other words, if you need really kolu chadasha in the literal sense, that it's a complete exact count, so how are we supposed to know when she conceived that we can be matir now? Okay? Now, getting back to other things here, gozo, a chick, shenola bo b'yontiv, which comes out of an egg on yontiv, mutter is permissible to eat right away, of course after you slaughter it, and it's not problem muktzeh. Shumatir atzah b'shchita, same as we said before, because it's matir itself for shchita, which you couldn't have shechted it when it was in the egg. Now it came out, you can shecht it, so therefore it's not muktzeh, and therefore you can actually use it as foodstuff, right? So it says the Gemara, Lo kein tani. Wait a minute, didn't we learn beitzim sherikvu, an egg which has a form in it, form like crisscrossing veins and arteries? An egg, obviously, if it's going to have a chick, is going to have crisscrossing veins and arteries, which are the beginning of the circulatory system, right? So if you find an egg which already has inside has this what? It's not a sinew, it's the capillary, whatever they're called, blood vessels, right? It's formed blood vessels, not just the spot, but it has vessels already. So if it has Beitzim Sharikmu or Gozolim, chicks, which do not have fully formed wings, so they are considered to be Asui Mishum Shekets. They are forbidden because the law of the Torah which says do not eat repugnant things. However, they're not considered to be a nevela. Of course, they're not considered to be a nevela because they're not considered to be fully chicks yet. It can't be a nivlas off unless it's a full chick, and this one's not a full chick, so therefore it can't be considered to be a nevela either. So it's not a it's not permitted to eat, but not because it's an nevela, but rather because it's a sheket, it's something repugnant. Now, says the more Rabbi Chagai said, "Fafilu shachton." I don't understand. It sounds to this that even you shech them, you're not allowed to eat them. Yeah, before we said the minute the chick pecks out of the shell, you're allowed to shech them. How do you reconcile these two brises? Right? It says here that until they get wings, you're not allowed to shech them. So you can't shech them once they come out of the. You can't shech them once they come out of the shechita, right? I mean, you can't eat them unless they have wings. So how can you shech them right when they come out of the egg? They're not edible yet. You have to wait till their wings are fully formed. So what does it mean that you can shecht it right out of the egg? What's the understanding of that? So says the Gemara, I'll tell you. It's a good question. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Abun said, Tipotter for Elam Danafki, it's talking about the Shatcher. It's talking about the birds which exit the womb. The Knafei and Alain, and they got their wings already. Since they got their wings, they can be shechted on the spot. Rabbi Apo B'Shem Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina Shoel, he asked a question like this. Kosher Tashmisha B'Yom Molid B'Yom. It says, we have a Mishnah which tells us that anything which has relations during the day, any animal which has relations during the day, it gives birth during the day. Balayla, if the animal that generally has relations at night, Molid Balayla gives birth at night. Hey Sibun, they asked the Kash, is this true? Alright, he goes, what about the Tanagos, the hen? Hare ein tashmisha ela bayom. It only has relations with its husband, the rooster, during the day. Violetis bayom ben belayla. Yet a chicken lays eggs both during the day and at night. So how do you reconcile that? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Avun said shani. Nah, it's a biological time clock because the hens is all messed up. They're different. You know why it's different? Because we say that, what's the indication that it's different? So he says here, Shekeni Yoledis Blo Zochar. Since a hen can lay an egg without a male, so therefore you can't say, well, it only has relations during the day. And if it's only laid during the day, that'd be true. The only way it produces eggs is by having relations with its rooster. But if it produces eggs on its own, so therefore that means the process can occur any time of day or night. Okay? Says Yerushalmi further, Rabbi Yerushalmi Gidul says, Egel Shanoah, the fascinating line Gemara. Egel Shanoah, I mean a treifa beyond. Before we had a calf which is born of a kosher animal. What about if a calf is born out of a treif animal? A treif meaning an animal which has a mortal wound which won't allow it to linger more than the next 12 months. So an egel shenoel, I mean a treifa beyontif, mutter. It's permitted to eat. Why? Because nasa gedover muchan tamam bedover sheina muchan. It's as if you have something mutter which is encased in something which is also. That was amazing as far as the Yerushalmi Beitza, which I took out library by Rabbi Steinberg, explains this very nicely. He says, although it's not like the portion on the page, he says that, look, a second. Why is the treifa also to eat? An animal which is not an avela, that it's more to blow which will die imminently, rather than an animal which is a treifa. That means that it could linger for the next 12 months, right? Up to 12 months. So why is it also to eat? Even though it can linger for the next 12 months, why not allowed to slaughter right now? Why now slaughter? Because it's lacking life force. If you want to shecht an animal and eat it, you have to take an animal which is fully alive and shecht it. The treifa is not fully alive anymore, right? Because he's on his way out. It's approaching the exit sign. Okay? But the reason why that treifa is also there for is because it lacks life force. But it's vlad, in this case which we're discussing, the animal within, the ego within the treifa has life force. So the psul which the outer animal has, the deficit, the inner animal doesn't have. So since that primary cause for the outer animal's deficit is not present in the inner animal, because the inner animal does have a viable life force, so therefore he holds that the ego born to a treifa is considered to be mutter immediately the moment it's born. Why is that? Again, because we say that it's something which is encased in the davar sheina muchan, it itself is muchan. There's some interesting concept, because that means we say this any time something is inside its mother, right? We say that it's muchan agav imo. It was fully prepared because of its mother. And that's even if the mother is a treifa. Because the only problem in the mother is that the mother lacks life force. The kid has got that life force, and that works for itself to make it mutter on Shabbos, on Yotiv, again, because it's not gedover muchan tam davar sheina muchan. If it's still inside, ben parkour, yeah.
Let's say you shut the straight, you know it's not good, you can't eat.
Yeah, I think that works for the kid though inside. Shechita does work for the kid inside in that case. Because again, the whole problem with the outer one is the so to speak, a topical problem. It's that it doesn't have as this trephus, but really the shechita is a valid procedure on it. Okay, so it works on the inner animal, which doesn't have the topical problem of trephus. Now, says when Tamatznina, we learned over there, Beitzas nevela, an egg born of a nevela. Im yeshba kayetze ba muteres pashuk. If there's a similar egg, which is, in other words, if it's so fully formed that he could have literally taken it out in the nevela, right? So the hen is which had died of natural causes. So then the Beitza was found in that naturally dead hen. So if the egg was so fully formed that it could actually be sold in the marketplace that way, muteres, then the egg is mutter, even though the mother died as an avela. If not asur, the egg is prohibited, because then it got the chisaron of being attached to the avela and receiving all the avela's deficits. Okay? Says Beis Shammai. That's like Beis Shammai. However, Beisil Osrin. Beisil says that the egg and the nevela is also to use on Yotiv. Now, says the Gemara, Matar the Beis Shammai. What's the logic of Beis Shammai? It says the Beitza and the nevela is mutter, because Gemuro Haisa Achelot Tisnabel. it was already completed before the animal became an avela. So that's why, since it's already completed before the animal became an avela, so that's why, I should explain, that the egg was completed before it was nisnabel. The reason why the egg is mutter, because even though the hen is an avela, the egg was mutter before the hen became an avela, right? So therefore, as if that's the logic to be matir, that the hen was mutter, that the egg was mutter before the hen became an avela. So if that's the case, afilu enkayetzibon in keres pashuk, even if you don't have similar sized eggs, similar nature eggs being sold in the marketplace, say muteris, let it be mutter, because since it was fully formed before the animal became an avela, what difference does it make if they're parallel ones in the marketplace or not? Who cares? Why invent this in Marasign? Just say, if anybody sees what you're doing, say that this is, of course, one of the cases in where we would say that the egg is mutter, because the egg was there before it became an avela. So it says, if you're going to say that, eventually they're going to erode that which is mutter, that which is osir. In other words, they're going to work back that which is osir until gradually nothing will be osir anymore, even the stuff which is still actually in the initial stages of forming in the cluster of eggs. So therefore he says like this, to sum up, Beis Shammai says that certainly in this case, if you had the Beitza and avela, it's permissible, right? It's permissible, because it's fully formed before the animal became an avela. And the truth is, I really should have told this in a couple of minutes ago, when the avela can't produce eggs. So that's the general principle, the avela can't produce eggs. So everybody says, why would you not be matter in this case? It's not even a Marasign issue, because everybody knows that the mother's in the avela, and therefore the eggs that you found inside the mother, when the mother died, are kosher eggs, because they couldn't have grown any more after it became an avela. So it says more, Basil says you're right, Misvara, but we're making this into Rabbanan here. This Rabbanan making is less than we go and start opening up dead hens and start taking up eggs, which are all still in the initial stages of forming, not so late in the game that we say that they're fully formed before the animal became an avela. Okay, so that's what he says. The actual cluster. Now, ask the more question. Beis Shammai, wait a second. Sounds like Beis Shammai is Kemishna Achrona. Says Rishoina, I know, but all them Pashim change it to Achrona. Sounds like Beis Shammai is like the last Mishnah, which we're going to see in a moment. But it's still Kemishna Rishoina, and it's like the first Mishnah we're going to see in a moment as well. Dam Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia, and some say it's supposed to be Rabbi Chia Bar Bar, because Rabbi Chia himself was older than Rabbi Yochanan, and he would not be quoting Rabbi Yochanan. Dam Rabbi Chia Bar Bar, Rabbi Chia Bar Bar said, B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, named Rabbi Yochanan. But Rishona Yomer, originally they used to say, this is the Mishnah Rishona, Ein Ma'amidim, when you make cheese, you cannot solidify the milk, you congeal the milk, lo b'kevas nevela, not with the intestine of a nevela, the lo b'kevas akum, nor the intestine of which came from an animal shechted by a goy. You know what I mean by that? You know how cheese is made? How do they make some? They put organisms, bacteria. Where are these organisms to be found? Something far more disgusting. What?
I said I know there's something like
in the refuse which lines the inside of the intestines of an animal. So, and that's called rennet. Nowadays it's artificial rennet, but even nowadays most cheeses are made with natural rennet. What? That's a good question. Moral Chulin talks about a great deal why it's not inflation. Because it's really only a catalyst. It's not the you don't eat the actual your actual hide or flesh of the small intestine of the animal. As you yourself pointed out, it's really the bacteria which line the intestine which is doing it, not the intestine itself. So, since that's the case, so Beis Shammai says, originally Beis Shammai said, no, so not Beis Shammai. Originally Rabbi Yochanan said that you can't use the gut of the intestine of nevela, nor the gut of intestine of a goy, meaning animal shechted by a goy. So then they changed their mind. They reneged, and they said, "Ma'amidim kevas nevela." You can't use the gut of an animal which died of natural causes. They ma'amidim kevas akum, but not the gut of an animal which is slaughtered by a goy, because we're afraid that maybe the goy had in mind to slaughter for the purpose of avodah zarah, and you're having an offer of avodah zarah. So Rabbi Yisrael Bun Amar. Before we go back to our question, which we're dealing with on Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, so we're going to talk about this issue a little bit. Rabbi Yisrael Bun Amar Shmuel Bar Boy. He said, Rabbi Yisrael said that Shmuel Bar Boy asked the question, Mak Rabbi Lezer, why do we remain in the Mishnah Achrona that an animal slaughtered by a goy is awesome? That means that we're assuming that the intent of a goy is always for avodah zarah. That's not true. We know our goyim are not so frum. They don't sacrifice for the purpose of avodah zarah all the time. So why is it awesome? So it says more. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Hachim barishoina hayu omrim ema mida be'lo b'kevus aveli." You know what? You're right. Remand the brisa. Originally, they wouldn't do the solidifying of the cheese, not with the rennet from nevela. The lo became a sakum, nor with the rennet of goy. The chasru lomar, but then they changed their mind and they said, "Takama meeting ben became a sevela, ben became a sakum." In other words, the Mishnah Achrona is not that of a nevela's mutter and a goy is also. Nevela's rennet is mutter. The rennet of an animal shechted by a goy is also. No, they both can be also, or both can be mutter. Rather, what's the brahmana? No. They both are mutter. Sorry. When they reneged, the Mishnah Achrona didn't just take off the Isser on the nevela of Nochri, they also took off the Isser on the nevela of Anakum. That's what it says here. See that? So it says, now, like we said on top. So actually, machlokas between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Bun, or Rabbi Yasser b'shem Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Chia Barba b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Chia Barba b'shem Rabbi Yochanan said, according to Mishnah Rishona, everything was awesome. According to Mishnah Achrona, the veil is mutter, akum is awesome. Everything is mutter. So again, the machlokas is whether in matter, even the keva of an animal slaughtered by a goy in the Mishnah Achrona or not. So Rabbi Yisrael said, Loshen Masnisa Meseil Rabbi Chia Barba. The language of the Mishnah Beitza sounds like Rabbi Chia Barba. It's not brought down here, but I wrote it down in the sides of my Gemara. It says explicitly, Rabbi Yeshua said to Rabbi Shmuel that the reason why cheese of a goy is aser is because they use rennet, which comes from animals designated for avodah zarah purposes, to solidify the cheese. So you see quite clearly that the Mishnah avodah zarah is learning that even by Mishnah Achrona, even after all is said and done, we're not allowed to eat non-Jewish cheese. Why? Because of the rennet, which comes from avodah zarah. So we see they didn't renege on that part of it. Now let's start the topic. Let's schmooze a little bit about intestines and its bacteria and lining. Kevas akum. The intestine of a goy, meaning the animal slaughtered by a goy, so it's potential avodah zarah, or kevas and nevela, or the keva and nevela, asura, are forbidden. Asur commissioner Rishoina, they're forbidden according to Mishnah Rishona. According to Mishnah Achrona, it's the machlokes, which is mutter and which is not. According to the Mishnah Achrona, which Rabbi Chia Barba presented, then only the cave and the vela is aser, but the cave and the vela became mutter, the cave of a goy remains aser. According to Rabbi Yasa, even the keva of avodah zarah became mutter. Why is that? Why is it the mutter even of avodah zarah? Because the reason why we say that is because, in fact, of what you said before, that what we're really interested in is not the intestine itself, it's the bacteria. And nobody worships bacteria, right? Now, I know they didn't know about bacteria back then, but they knew was the coating on the inside, right? It's not the actual meat, so therefore it would be mutter, okay? Now, what about sheirish yonka minat treifa? What about if you have an kosher animal which nursed from a treif animal, so what lines its intestines is the product of milk from a treif animal. And milk, treif animal means an animal which had a mortal wound. And milk from a treifa is also, halacha does not permit that. Were we to know that our milk, we have milk from treifas, but also there was a big controversy 5 years ago because of that. Do you remember the controversy at all? When they found that certain animals' abdomens were being ripped open and that maybe the animals were treif, and there are no milk supply might have milk from treif animals mixed in? No recollection? It's 1994. Where were you in 1994? Here, right? That'll explain it.
That'll explain everything.
But if you drank milk, then you would have a problem. But in any event, so that's the case. So unidirectional microphone, so it doesn't necessarily pick up from behind. But so that's the case. What if you have a kosher animal which absorbs milk which lines the intestines from a treif animal? So kevas asura Mishnah Rishona. Like Mishnah Rishona, it's asur because the lining of its intestines, meaning the bacteria and stuff on the inside, is from a treif animal, even though it's animal itself is kosher, right? What about vice versa? A treif which suckled from a kosher animal, kevas muteres, it's kevas muter, according to Mishnah Achrona. Now, the truth is that it can even be muter according to Mishnah Rishona, I think, because the treif and shonka min akshera is actually that whatever is in its innards, whether we say Mishnah Rishona or Mishnah Achrona, in and of itself, that stuff inside is mutter. But I guess it's saying it's like Mishnah Achrona because our understanding Mishnah Rishona was that if kevas nevela is osir, so it means that there's an issur using the keva from the nevela itself, even if it nursed from a kosher animal. They just made it clear like that because you might come to use nevelas or whatever. I don't know exactly. So therefore, they're saying that according to Mishnah Rishona, before they were matir keva of nevela, so then the keva of a treifa, even if the treifa nursed from a kosher animal, remains osir because it's coming from an animal which itself was treif. Okay, says the Yerushalmi further. Now, why are we bringing this all down? Because we want to ask the kasha. It sounds like Beis Shammai goes like Mishnah Achrona because Beis Shammai allowed the egg which you find in an nevela. And Basil is going like Mishnah Rishona because Basil disallows the egg you find in the nevela. And that's bad because we want Basil to go like the final opinion of the matter, right? So that's the kasha which you're coming to answer. Says the Gemara, no, it's not a kasha. You know why Basil was so machmir by eggs? Because Beitza, well, I skipped the line. I feel these room Beis Shammai Beis Mishnah Achrona. You can even say that both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel are going like Mishnah Achrona. Alright, so if that's the case, I understand Beis Shammai's matir because Mishnah Achrona was matir the Beitza, the keva of a nevela, so therefore also be matir the Beitza nevela. But what about Beis Hillel asking the Beitza nevela? So it says more, no comparison. Beitza Gidule Gufa. You know why the Beitza nevela is usher? Because Beitza nevela is part of its body. It grows in a cluster inside the nevela's body. However, keva, v'makom acher bos. Where does the keva come? Why we're matir the perish the use intestine of a nevela to make cheese? Because that comes from elsewhere. It didn't grew inside the body, but it's not part of the body. So everybody still says, I ask her the egg which you found in the Vela, because if I let people eat that, so next thing you know, people are going to eat in the Vela itself. They'll eat the cluster of eggs from which the Vela comes. But by the way, I think caviar is like that. Caviar is like the cluster of eggs which grows within the fish's body. I think that's what caviar is. Only had it once in my life. It tasted horrible. But that's it. What? Yeah, I'm talking about fake caviar. But fake caviar is also real caviar, just it comes from salmon, not from sturgeon. But it's also the eggs of the salmon. So I'm pretty sure that's the cluster. So we don't want people to come to eat that by nevela. So if we ask the eggs nevela, but that's only because the eggs also grow from the body of the nevela. But the refuse inside the intestines, that it doesn't grow from the animal, so therefore we're matter that. Says more, V'asir Kehat Am Rabbi Yosef Rabbi goes to that which Rabbi Yosef Barbun said, Shem Yochanan Rabbi Yochanan, Ma'aseh B'Banav Shal Yehuda ben Shmui, Ma'aseh Masons of Yehuda ben Shmui, Shabikulem Zevi Yotzem Shlosh Mil Son. A horrible, horrible loss occurred on their farm. Wolves came and bit more than 300 of their sheep, and of course now the sheep are treif, right? So what are you going to do with them? Salvage what you can. I mean, obviously you're going to shear them. But they allowed the use of the intestines from these sheep to make cheese, to make rennet. Why is that? Amru, they said, Beitza, the Beitza which comes to the veil of a treifa, Kitule Gufa, grows from its body, that's also by the veil of treifa. But Keva, the stuff in the innards, it comes from whatever it nourished, so therefore that remains mutter, and even from these treif sheep we can use the rennet, the lining of the stomach. Now, a new issue altogether, although the Gemara will tie it back to our Mishnah. Know the Yontif. What if you have Shabbos Yontif next to each other? Yontif is on Friday, and then you have Shabbos. So know the Yontif Tiachim Shabbos. If the egg is born on Yontif, it can be eaten on the Shabbos which follows it subsequently, and vice versa. The Shabbos Tiachim Yontif. If it's born on Shabbos, the other it's Sunday, then you can eat it on that Sunday. Rabbi Shem Rabbi Lezer. Hiya Machlokas. That's the Machlokas in our Mishnah. Precisely this point. Beis Shammai says you can eat it. Beis Hillel says you can't eat it. Because Beis Hillel is actually brought down the Bavli this Svara that Yontif and Shabbos have to be prepared for from before they begin. Shabbos can't prepare for Yontif, and Yontif can't prepare for Shabbos. So therefore that preparation to take place if Yontif is on Friday on Thursday, or on Friday if Yontif is on Sunday. But not from Shabbos Yontif and Yontif to Shabbos. Says Gemara, Rabbi Chanina Hore L'Tziporoi. Rabbi Chanina had paskin for the Tziporians, people in Tzipori, two things: B'siv Chechardo u'Beitza, both by wild mustard which grows wild in Shemitah, and by Beitza, a Beitza like Rabbi Yehuda. Now the wild mustard seed, that was a kula that you're allowed to eat. You're allowed to use it on Shemitah. Most of it grows wild. You're not allowed to use because we're afraid that then you're going to come to cultivate it. But he said you're allowed to use wild mustard seed because nobody's ever going to grow mustard and cultivate it. However, that was a kula. By Beitza Zechumer, that Rabbi Yehuda said that that Shabbos comes after Yontif after Shabbos, everything has to be prepared before the Shabbos Yontif combo starts. So that's a chumrah. So all Rabbi Yochanan, previously the Gra says, Rabbi Yochanan had been in Tzipori, but Dorishlu, and he said the exact opposite. Krabanan the Tamon. Rabbanan Machmir by Smichei Chardo. They say you can't eat them even when they grow wild, and they're Mekil by a Beitza on Shabbos when Yontif precedes, or on Yontif when Shabbos precedes, they can eat it the next day. So Rabbanan Da'acha by here by the eggs, Rabbanan Tamon there by the case of the wild growth and Shemitah. So Rabbi Abba Bar Zmina B'Shem Rabbi Yitzchak said Mikumi Ilay Tatimai, because of these two psakim, Nachas Rabbi Yochanan and Tzipori Tzveria, Rabbi Yochanan came down from Tzipori and moved to Tzveria. Because after you had darshan both things like Rabbanan, Rabbi Chanina came and darshan like Rabbi Yehuda. So he said, Omar, he said, Ma Sisulei Ahin Saba. Why did you bring this old man to Tzipori? Ta'ana Shari I Matir, Vuasar, and he answers. Vuasar, and I answer, Vushari. He says the opposite of me, forget it, I'm skipping town. You guys fend for yourselves with Rabbi Chanina, who you just took. Okay? Gimel Amrav, Rabba said, Asa Uvda Yikumi Rabbi Asa, a Maisa came from Rabbi Asa, who bought Mevek Rabbi Yochanan. He wanted to follow Rabbi Yochanan. In other words, like Rabbanan on both counts, to Asa the mustard and be matir the egg. Shamar the Rabbi Yurav, Rabbi Chida, Tarbeim Pliken, when he heard that both Rav and Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Chida argue Rabbi Yochanan, Shma Mina, Mina. He removed himself from this, and he was not refused to be matir the cases. He didn't get involved. How do we know that Rav also argues besides Rabbi Yochanan? You know, I think. Let's try and go a little bit further. Despite the Machlokas, Shori Psila. Let's say you lit candles on Friday afternoon for Shabbos. Can you use, and then Sunday's a Yontif. Can you use whatever's left over from Shabbos on Yontif? Right? Shori Psila, leftover wicks. Shori Medura, the leftover, if you made a torch, the leftover wood, right? Shori Shemin, or the leftover oil, Shekoma b'Shabbos and Katzlu Shabbos. Ma'al Ali can use them at Yontif immediately afterwards. For Rabbi Chanina, Tarvei and Army laws, or they both said it's also, because they hold that everything is prepared before the Shabbos Yontif combo begins. Rabbi Yochanan Mutter, Rabbi Yochanan says Mutter. Rabbi Yehuda, Ramona, Kumi Rabbi Yehuda. So Ramona said for Rabbi Yehuda, Ma Abchon. Abchon is a strange word. Some change gears to Akfon, which means put together. Some change gears to Ichbalto, which means why did you repeat? Why did you draw a similarity? Literally, why did you make them double? How can you compare the two? Psila, the wick, is complete muktzah. A wick which is burning on Shabbos is complete muktzah, so maybe that's why you can't use free yontif afterwards. But a beitza is not complete muktzah. It's only quasi muktzah, right? Because it was already there in the mother's womb before it. It wasn't doing a dover usher on Shabbos like the wick was. So maybe psila is more usher. Amalei, so he said, what can I do? Law. Since I saw the rabbis drawing comparison between psila and beitza, teaches us they're both the same, and since they're both the same, so therefore I have to pass it not like Rabbi Yochanan, that an egg born on Shabbos is mutar and Yontif which follows it, or vice versa. Rather, I have to pass it Chanina and Rav, just like the psila for Shabbos, so Yontif, so vice versa. The psila and Yontif is also on Shabbos, and the egg on Shabbos also on Yontif, etc., etc. Now, like Rabbi Yochanan wanted to pass it. Okay, that's the end of the sugya. It's a convenient stopping place. Monday, there's still Seder here. Okay, so Monday will still be here. Yeah. I checked out with the Meshkiach. That's the last night.